All right, so Shigbaga, I'm so sorry, dude. One of these days I'm gonna have to like talk to you so you can help me learn how to pronounce your name. Hey guys, I have
Yeah.
potential. I'm sorry, go
Actually,
ahead.
we had a really good conversation with Chipka the other day. I think it
Shibga.
was last week. Yeah. And yeah, we had a really, really good conversation about it.
Awesome.
So I appreciate it.
Awesome. Hey guys, I potentially come across my first big account. Sweet. I'm gonna plus one that. A prospect wants SEO for approximately 25 websites, which he wants to rank in the 3-pack for various cities, 155 mile radius around him. I sat down with a guy this morning, and getting addresses for mail verifications is not a problem for him. The options I presented to him are: 1, a large website with 25 subdomains, or 2, separate WordPress websites. I'm leaning towards number 2 because I'm a little afraid of future changes that could take down such a large account. But what are your thoughts? Thank you. No, I would absolutely go with subdomains. Shibga, I would do that specifically because look, I don't work for Google. None of us do, and so we really can't predict the future. But for Google to come in and like penalize now, see, like if you got your root domain penalized, it would absolutely affect the 25 subdomains. But if you got like an individual subdomain penalized, then it wouldn't affect the others. The problem with 25 separate websites is, in my opinion, is none of them are going to benefit from each other. Does that make sense? I mean, there are some ways that you can hack in some benefits. I know I've got several lead gen stuff that I've got, some of them with 15, like roughly 15 locations. And I know you're not supposed to do this, but I've done it and it works. And that's to link kind of like at random from one location site to another. And I'm just using footer links, guys. I know this, people say don't use site links and footer links and that kind of stuff, but I've done it and it works. At least it's worked on some of the projects that I've done. And I always do on subdomains. So, I mean, you can accomplish the same thing with doing separate WordPress websites, but the benefit of using subdomains is that you're building the overall authority of the root domain with each subsequent subdomain that you add, right? So each additional subdomain or location that you add, you're going to end up building. You don't necessarily need a separate syndication network for each, but you are going to have separate citations for each. You are going to have separate Google My Business verified listings for each. You are going to have, potentially separate Google Drive stacks, or at least, specific folders for each location, right? Likely you're going to be doing separate press releases for each location. So my point is that by doing all that work to each individual location / subdomain site, right, you're going to end up building the overall authority of the root domain, which means that each new location that you add is going to instantly be given a boost because it's basically, benefiting from all the authority of the root domain. And you're going to get better results a lot quicker. And the more that you add, the more that the more authority that accumulates. It's a cumulative effect that really starts to occur. And I found that to be the case with a lot of the lead gen stuff that I've done where I've got multiple locations. The more and more sites I add, the easier it is to rank the sites. And so again, I would recommend that you go with the subdomain route. The idea here is to keep your root domain incredibly clean. So don't use your root domain for anything spammy at all. You could use the root for the blog, and you just make sure that you're just doing like the best practices that we teach, which would be like a branded syndication network for the root. You can do all of your blogging from the root domain and actually blog to your 25 subdomains from the root. That's something else I would recommend doing. When you have multiple locations like that, all under one brand, if you have separate subdomains, I don't recommend doing separate blogs and separate syndication networks for each location unless it's required. And what I mean by that is, what I try to do is do all of my blogging from the root. For even if I got 10 subdomain sites, I don't care. I try to do all of my blogging from the root domain and use the root domain RSS feed as my trigger point for the branded syndication network. And it's just one syndication network. Then what I do is over the course of a few months, as I am continuously publishing content to the blog, I start tracking the results of the individual location sites. Some sites are going to respond really well to the blog. Other sites, obviously in more competitive areas, or where the competition is higher, they're not going to respond quite as well from using the blog on the root like that. So in those cases, then it makes sense to create a branded location-specific network for that specific site, and then blogging directly from that location site to that location-specific syndication network. because then you get a little bit of the benefit from the root domain blogging about that location, as well as its own individual or specific location syndication network, so that you end up with basically you can power it up from 2 different locations, and that seems to be really, really effective. And so just keep that in mind, guys. One of the things that you could do, Shibga, I'm sorry, that's difficult for me to pronounce, but is on your root domain is you create categories for each one of your location sites, right? And so that when you're blogging from your root domain, you just place the posts in the appropriate category, which is essentially the location category, right? And so you can build up a ton of relevance that way, and it makes your root domain incredibly strong. And so whenever you add a new subdomain or new location, it's going to instantly benefit from all of that accumulated authority. So that's my take on it, but I'd like to hear the opinions of some of you guys. What do you think?
Yeah, he's in RYS Academy, and he's RYS Reloaded, and he's a really active member. So just post in there, because I have something that really kills for something like this, especially if you're going to have the 25 subdomains and you're going to have separate maps for each one, or separate GMBs. I mean, you could totally just crush this, and your competition won't even know what happened. I mean, just totally 3-pack and organic and 3-pack, just whatever. It's going to be a mix, and it's going to be a big happy ranking party. Contact me in RYS Reloaded. If you don't want to give away your niche or URL, then you can just give me a private message, because all my guys in RYS Reloaded, they get a half hour with me whenever they feel that they're ready for it. And so this would be the perfect time for you to take advantage of your half hour, Shibga.